Okay, let's begin. I am Lanice Antoine Shelley, and I'll be your host through constructive, healing-based conversations designed to illuminate the adoptee, parents, and the adoption curious. We center the topics around community, mentorship, leadership, and healing, so you get a multi-dimensional view that is ultimately empowering. These are the voices who could not speak when they were young. Hey y'all, if you've seen me on Instagram, I'm in my summer glow phase and I am unapologetic about it. My hair is luscious. Fun fact, I didn't start properly treating and doing my own hair until I was a grown adult because like many Black adoptees, no one showed me how to do my own hair. And because I love you all so much, I'm going to share with you my hair secret. I'm always on the lookout for things you'd love and things that will enhance your well-being inside and out. We Unique Cosmetics sent me their Moisture Lock pomade and scalp and hair therapy oil from their Metamorphosis line, and it's so decadent, light, and nourishing, fam. This has become a hair routine staple. It has a soft lemongrass scent that people comment on when I walk by or when they're doing my hair because now I have boho locks. They also sent me a 15% discount link for you to try their products and hair tutorial service. And Unique Cosmetics is Black owned and operated by a mother and daughter duo dedicated to helping the adoptee community. Check out the link in the show notes. And this is for all ages, fam. So tell your friends. So come on, embark on a hair-loving journey with We Unique World. From interactive workshops to premium products, they're all about empowering you to embrace your unique hair journey. Because remember, all hair is good hair, especially when it's healthy. Hey there, how you doing? Happy Saturday. As you may have guessed, I am severely under the weather with COVID. I took 2 tests and they were bright red positive. Although I am vaxxed and boosted, here we are. Honestly, who knows if that even matters after all the strains multiplying around us. I don't mean to scare you, but this is my 3rd time having COVID. My guest today called in from Seoul, Korea. Nikki Webster is known as Nikki Often, which is a collection of illustrations about adoption, reunion, loss, and self-development. Before we jump in, I just wanted to speak to listening to adoptees with empathy and curiosity when it comes to their specific experiences. Like any child, adoptees have some strong opinions about their upbringing, and their relationships with their caregivers or parents are colored by specific events compounded over years. The judgment of adoptees' estrangement to their parents or complicated feelings about their adoption stems from the old dominant narrative that we are supposed to be unconditionally content with the caregivers who raised us. The sobering truth is that is not and will never be the case. We're all humans. We're all infallible. We make mistakes. And as we evolve and venture out of the fog, things will naturally come up, reckonings will happen, and boundaries will be erected. That's just human nature. Nikki is so beautifully candid about the complexities of her childhood and how she reunified with her biological family and now lives in the same city that they reside. In this episode, we talk about allowing your child to sleep with you for as long as possible or as long as they need. We talk about her work on these heartwarming comics that I fell in love with on Instagram. Nikki explains what a miracle of tenacity means to her. We also talk about her estrangement with her adoptive mother and how to overcome feelings of not being enough as we both dabble in public speaking. I feel as if I talked too much in this episode, but I was just so excited to be speaking with such a like-minded creative. I'm so inspired by Nikki. You can learn more about Nikki's extraordinary evolution on her website, NikkiOften.com. This conversation is such a good one. Let's lean in.
Yeah, and I'm just so excited to be here.
And you are calling in from Seoul, Korea. And how long have you been there? Because I know that you came back to the States. Like, how long have you been based in Seoul?
Yeah, so I've been here since December of last year, this time. And then 10 years ago, I lived here from 2012 to 17. So I'm like familiar with Seoul, but this is I'm still kind of recent on this trip.
Okay. And do you have your own home? I hope you don't mind me prying because I'm so curious when you told me, rather, I looked on your website. I feel like I know you, but I looked on your website and it just kind of charted your timeline. I was immediately curious as to like, how did you reintegrate? Are you fluent in Korean? Where are you linguistically? Like all of that.
I speak Korean not well. I don't know. It's really hard to gauge my level of Korean. But yeah, 한국어 할 수 있어요. Like I can go out in public and like get kind of complicated things done without the help of my sisters. But sometimes when it's like something really, really weird or I don't know how to do it, I'll call like one of my little sisters to help me. But yeah, I started learning from scratch, I think, or I learned in college a little bit, but that was like very rudimentary stuff. And then when I moved to Korea when I was 25 years old, I just went straight into like learning as much as I could. But back then I was pretty like distraught all of the time. And it was a pretty rough process the first time living here. So I had like, I think I've mentioned this to other people. I had like a pretty hard mental block on learning certain things. And I was like super over concerned with like how fast other people were learning, which is like not the way to go when you're learning anything. But yeah, when I came back this time, my sisters actually like noticed that I was a little bit better at Korean. And I've worked for Korean companies where there are certain people or talking to headquarters, I can only speak Korean to them. So I think that's what really helped me a lot. And this is not an ad, but I used Duolingo to help me with the listening portion. They force the listening like exercises on you. And I think that's what really helped me this time. And then when I first got here this time, I lived with my little sister and her family for like 2 months straight. And, it was just like straight immersion the whole time. So, I don't know. I feel very confident about it. Reintegration, I think, is like a strong version of what I've done. I think I'm not sure that I fully reintegrated back in because there are so many things that I don't understand about this culture, but my family accepted me. So they allow me to like live the way I want to live. And, they try to teach me some certain cultural things here and there, but it's not like I must do these things for them in order for them to love me. So I'm very, very grateful for them. I don't know. Maybe other people have some different experiences, but I'm really lucky because I have like a lot of younger siblings too, and they're like more free to live their life. I think some of my older ones wish I could be a little more traditional or something, but they're kind of just like, well, you're American, so you have to live the way you want to live.
Well, I've only heard different stories. And so your circumstance is rare. I've heard 2 adoptees, one from Colombia and one from Haiti, who have been able to attempt to relearn their native language and to get to know their families. And you're the third person that I've ever spoken to who's been able to even try. And I haven't tried, not wholeheartedly. I lived with my cousins in Boston for about, I think, a month. And even in Boston, it was a lot for me. I was like, I keep on saying this probably in every episode that we as adult adoptees are at a deficit. and we spend a lifetime catching up to traditions and cultures and nuances that would have been more intrinsic had we been brought up in that culture. And so there's a lot of shame, a lot of frustration, bewilderment that comes with searching, with that seeking to understand and catch up to our native countries. And so I applaud you for even trying. Like, I haven't wholeheartedly tried. Again, like it lasted a month for me. There were some cultural things, such as, like, I imagine that in Korea, the familial bond is stronger than the individualistic just ways of American. And because I was like, okay, I'm doing it. This is me doing it, you know? But it was a hard adjustment when it came to the proximity to other people, because growing up in suburbia in a white family where, I think culturally speaking, white people distance themselves from each other more so than other cultures. And so it was a harsh reality when so many people came through the house, and a lot of men, and I was brought up by women. And so even now, when there are strange men in my space, I'm a bit tense. I'm at arms. I have to, armor myself a bit. So I applaud you for even trying, my friend. I know that was a lot and is a lot for you. And do you take in-person Korean classes, or is this just digital?
No, I don't take any classes right now. When I was younger here, I did like kind of some part-time hagwons, picking up like random stuff from my family. I did a lot of self-study, but there was this one year where I got like this amazing scholarship to study in Korea. And they offered 1 year of intensive Korean study and 2 years of grad school. And I didn't finish the grad school portion, but I did do the year of Korean. And it was preparation for like the national fluency test or something, the 한국어 능력 시험. And so it was like it was like a really accelerated foundation for me. I had just been like doing beginner. And then from that point on, I was like maybe low intermediate. And then I think when I moved back to Los Angeles, or not back to, I moved to Los Angeles for the first time ever. But I kept the same job that I had in the same Korean company. And I think I just, because there was not a lot of pressure to learn it, I felt like maybe I got better at it. I don't know. Or I just got more comfortable with it. And then last year, like leading up to December, I used Duolingo for like 300 days straight. And I think that's like what was helping me this time. But yeah, I don't really take classes because I learned over the years like how to sentence diagram, kind of I can see the grammar patterns where they end. And I think with Korean, it's kind of hard for some people to see that, especially if it's like you're just first learning the language. But I also know how to like break apart sentences and then put them in a translator and make the translator do everything for me. Yeah, like my vocabulary is not good. There's a lot of words here I don't know and stuff. So
yet.
yeah, not yet. I'm
Not
sure
yet.
I will learn more. But yeah, it's been an interesting thing, and I recommend everybody to learn their like mother tongue, or however that term is. Just learning any language, even if you have no connection to the country at all, it helps open up your world. So I really believe in like learning about other cultures, but it is very meaningful and special when you were like born in it and then you got severed completely from it and you can come back to it anyway.
How old were you when you were adopted?
I was 3 months old it was like kind of a normal adoption age at that time in the 80s. So I was born, and then they like kept me alive for 3 months. And then as soon as I was old enough to ride the plane, they sent me to my adoptive family.
That's an interesting use of words, kept you alive. Is that how you feel? They kept you alive? Did they nurture, sustain?
Actually, I had a foster mom. I know that I had a foster mom here, and she had like a kind of like an older single son, I think, who was a lawyer. That's what my papers say. And I assume that those people were good people if they were fostering children.
We would hope.
Yeah, I would assume so. But I've actually recently learned a lot about the circumstances under which some people were adopted. I was at a meeting at the National Assembly in Seoul, and they were going over, they're assessing if human rights were violated in South Korea during the adoption processes. And 100% they were, because birth parents were like being kind of like coerced to give up their children. I think the story that for some reason resonates with me, and I'm like never going to ask my mom about this, but the stories that I heard that I thought might be my story is that people would go to the hospital to have a baby because it was like an emergency. They needed to give birth, and then they wouldn't be able to pay their bill. So the hospital would say, oh, well, if you let us have the baby for adoption, then we'll let you walk out without paying the bill. And that's how, that's how some people were like told. And then there was like people who, they were like leaving their kids at orphanages, and they were saying, oh yeah, I'm going to come back in like 6 months, a year. I'm going to pick my kid up. And within that time, their kid would be sent abroad. And the orphanage would say to the parents, your child told us that they wanted to be adopted. And I don't think that's true at all.
That can't be true. Yeah. No child would ever say that.
Yeah. There was one, though. I remember there was a lady, like her older sister got adopted first. And then her older sister called her from the receiving country and was like, hey, do you want to come be with me? And she was like, yeah, I don't want to stay here anymore. I want to go. So it's weird because every story is really, really different. And
well, for that little girl who wanted to join her sister, though, what was she in, right? Was she in a very healthy, nurturing condition? Because you have to weigh that in as well. Because then perhaps it would have seemed a better choice than being in the present squalor or neglect that she had to exist in that moment.
Yeah, for sure. I think she was from a different generation than me, which means definitely squalor and not good conditions. And you're right about the family ties being stronger here in Korea too. I think that's a big problem with the U.S. I don't know. So many things that you said about your story, like I thought of things to say, but she, it was more important to her to be with her sister, I think. And I think any young child would be like, I'd rather. Yeah.
That's a huge selling point, right? Would you rather be alone or with someone and possibly loves you? And so you also have to factor in the variable of adoption being romanticized, right? Far and wide, people believe, and then they peddle this idea of a better life. And we as adoptees understand that there is no better life. What is your metric for better life? Even though with all of my education and resources and just state of being, I don't believe that this existence is better. It is different. It's different. And the better life narrative is so detrimental to us understanding the trauma of adoption, the depth of the fracturing of relationships, because you mask it. It's all shrouded behind this idea of, oh no, this suburban white family is going to be better intrinsically. than being with people that just care for you because they're relatives, you know, that have a more community-based structure. Really quickly, I just want to tell this story, and then I want to get to some of the work that you've been up to.
Sure.
But I spent 2 weeks with my sister, who's not biological. She's adopted from Haiti as well. And at the time, I was in between gigs. And so my place was being sublet. So I was like in limbo, stayed with my sister. And my mom told me, oh, 2 weeks is too long to stay with your sister. And I thought to myself, and the more and more I've thought about it, it's not too long. If we're family and we're playing this game of Lanice needs a place to stay because her place is being sublet, then what is too long? I find that in the American culture, there is this, again, individualized nature of us versus them. I'm over here and they're over there, even within families. And I witness these other cultures where they take you in. It's not a question. Had I been in Haiti, it wouldn't have been a question. It would have just been something that happened, something that was, you know, just a Wednesday. And so those sort of things I add up if we're talking about what's better. Those things matter to me. Yeah, I was perplexed by that. I continue to be disappointed.
Like the thing that I think of is when kids are real young, I think a lot of white parents are telling them, sleep in your room, like learn how to sleep alone when you're only like 3, 5, 7 years old. And in Korea, I know that my nieces and nephews will sleep next to their mom until they're like 6 years old or until they want their own space or whatever. Like it's not a problem. And it's not like a sign of weakness to want to sleep next to your parents here in Korea. And it's like, it feels so weird that like I saw that difference and I realized like, oh yeah, like maybe that's why I'm traumatized, because I was being forced to sleep alone in a dark room for like, since I was like 2 years old or something. Yeah. It's just so weird. But on the other hand, I remember I don't know if this is really related, but there was also this moment where the first time I ever met my mom, they wanted me to sleep next to her, but as like a 25-year-old. And I remember being like super white about it. And I was like, no, I don't want to do this. And I mean, it was also just my personality too. I was like, I'm not going to sleep next to this grown woman.
That level of intimacy, right? Level, we are not brought up to understand intimacy between two platonic people. In these households, proximity is always in relation to sex rather than in relation to love, in relation to I honor and want to protect you. So I want you near me. It's a completely different thing. And I concur because I spent so many terrorized nights because I used to wake up in night terrors as a kid. And my mom wouldn't let me sleep with her. And I remember sleeping by her bed because I was so ashamed that I wanted to sleep with her and she didn't want me to do that I would sleep without like any blanket. Now thinking back, I'm like, oh, this is tragic. But I would just sleep like at the foot of the bed. Oh. And she would be in the bed because I was so ashamed that I was scared and I didn't have the language. And I didn't feel safe in saying, I need to be protected.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I used to go to my adoptive mother's bed a lot too. And she was like not cool about it either. And now I think she probably regrets that because I like estranged myself from them when I was probably like 20 years old or maybe a little earlier. So yeah, I don't know if there's young parents out there listening, please let your kids just sleep with you as long as they need to.
It's a huge misstep, the lack of intimacy. I mean, there's so many things you can go down the list when it comes to interracial adoptions, how like my mom never did my hair. That was a missed opportunity of intimacy, right? And I didn't learn how to do my hair until I was 30.
Yeah.
Imagine what my 20s looked like. And so it's these sort of things that, again, I factor into the better life. Like, there are certain things that I know to be true had I stayed with my family and my siblings, because as you stated, you have siblings. And how many biological siblings do you have?
I have 9 sisters, biological to the same parents. Okay. Yeah. It's pretty like magical, I would say. But they are, how many siblings do you have in Haiti?
I have 3 that I know of.
That's a big family too.
Yeah, but I don't know of my father's side of the family. He passed away. And honestly, it wasn't until last year where I had this epiphanal thought, oh my God, I probably have more siblings. you know, dad's side, because my mom had 4 kids with 4 different men.
Oh, okay.
And so who knows how many other family members are out there. And my mom was one of 11 kids.
Wow. Yeah. It's I feel like Haiti should do DNA, like a DNA searching database or something. We have that in Korea, or I guess people are using Ancestry and stuff too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, that
organized, absolutely.
Yeah,
Haiti
true.
has a lot of problems right now. Figuring out who's my next of kin isn't on top of their list, but just trying to keep a president without, assassination would be great.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
But all of this is so incredible. I'm just so amazed by you. On your website, you talk about public speaking. Are you a public speaker?
I am not. I don't know. I hope I didn't mention that on my website. I'm trying to think about what I wrote there. I think I just recently updated that. No, I don't think that I am considered a public speaker, but I'm actually going to be giving a keynote speech in Colorado in April at
Here it is. It's the keynote speech that I'm referring to. That's you.
Yeah, that'll be my first time ever, and I'm very nervous about it. I guess I put that in there because I was trying to map out my year. And then I'm going to be at ICA this year in Seoul, which is an international Korean adoptee gathering. And I'm going to be presenting on living in Korea, reunion with my birth family, and just my artwork, I guess, in general, and my story from start to finish. So yeah, I have 2 opportunities coming up to be a speaker, but I don't think I'm currently in that space. And
but you're like momentarily.
I am. I have
how
crazy.
Are you preparing? How are you preparing and getting yourself ready to have that confidence? Because a lot of adoptees, and I know that I was definitely one maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, who didn't feel like I had a voice, that I had something to share. And even in the beginning of producing this podcast, I was just like, who am I? Like, what am I going to say and do? And I was so caught up in my perfectionism for the first season of this podcast that I would edit every out of it, and it would take me hours. And then after a while, I was just like, Lenise, it's okay. And they'll you no matter what. And if they don't, they can stop listening. So there's that too. So how are you getting into the mind space of sharing your voice with conviction, of having confidence that you have something to share? Hey, I want to share with you something that has changed my life. It's more like someone, my therapist. Why is she so important? Well, because I want to win in this life. I want to break through the carousel of stories I've compiled that hold me back, that keep me from expanding into my full potentiality. Stories of unworthiness, not enoughness, and even stories of questioning why I am here. I also want to stop dumping my unsorted feelings on the people around me and reacting with the same behavioral patterns that keep me stuck. Conversations with my therapist have made me more confident, clearer in my intention, and more centered in my spirit. That is why I am elated that we are sponsored by BetterHelp, where you can, from wherever you happen to be right now, match with a therapist tailored to your exact needs. With BetterHelp, you can tap into a network of over 30,000 licensed and experienced therapists who can help you with a wide range of issues. Someone who you can text at any time and schedule online for either a chat, Zoom, or phone call. And if it turns out that your therapist isn't the right fit, you can switch to a new therapist at no additional cost. Visit the link in the show notes, betterhelp.com, when they were young, to get 10% off the first month. You need to click the link in the show notes in order to get the 10% discount. I want to see you win, beloved. Let's do it together. Visit the link, betterhelp.com, when they were young.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I'm doing a lot of like just preparation on like Google Docs and stuff. I think the main thing though is that what I wrote and I sort of surprised myself was that my fears right now and my stage fright and not being perfect and still being new, all of that is not as important as just helping other people get through things. And that's been, I think, the organic evolution of my work on Nikki Often, because at first it was a very personal project. It was just to help me get through my life. And then I think I grew up a little bit, I stabilized, I learned some things about life. And now it's not really for me anymore. It's for other people. And I think I remember how like sad and depressed and lonely I was when I was like in maybe like 18 to 28 or something. And I think about how much I needed somebody then. And if I can be that person to other people, even in a small way, that's like more important than not being good enough or not saying the right thing. I mean, no, I should say the right thing, but yeah, like making mistakes. And so I'm sort of leaning into my imposter syndrome and my feelings of not being perfect enough. And I think that that's what's going to help people. Like, I think a lot of people will write to me and they're like, "Oh, you're so vulnerable, you're so brave, etc." And I don't think that I am, but someone explained it to me the other day, and he was just like, "Yeah, well, you did it first. It's not like everyone can be that way, but it's just like you took the first step, and it helps people to believe that they can also face their own fears or discomfort." And yeah, I just want to be that so much, even if I like say like all the time or say all the time. And yeah, I do the same thing. And all of that's just like practice over years of public speaking. And I don't know, it's just really important to me to help other adoptees, specifically young ones who have parents who are not helping them, because that's my story. And we have a huge network of people, not just Korean adoptees. We have other adoptees too, and they're willing to come and guide and help people. And I want to be a part of that. So I'm really grateful that I got these 2 opportunities this year to do it. And I'm hoping it'll just kind of keep going. But I don't know that I want to be like a public speaker professionally. That sounds really scary.
You might be called to it though. Because
yeah,
like the winds are blowing towards that, and public speaking isn't something that I necessarily enjoy doing. People assume that I'm strong at it, that I am confident and love it because I'm a performer, and that's not anywhere near the truth. A lot of performers are reclusive, very shy when it comes to their natural life. And I'm no different. I don't like to be the center of attention when I'm not performing. And even then, it's just like there's somebody else to look at. There has to be somebody else to look at. But
yeah.
But I think it's really exciting that you're getting out there and finding this way to move through this fear and creating an opportunity for yourself. I just listened to a podcast that might be a benefit to you that I'll forward to you after this.
Yeah.
It's called The School of Greatness, Lewis Howell. It's hosted by Lewis Howell. And he talks about, in this episode, they talked about public speaking and what that entailed for them and how they surpassed the nerves. And they said what you said, in other words, of just focusing in on the service, on what it is that you're doing, what it is that you're giving to these people, what they're learning, because then you'll get outside of yourself. Who am I? What am I doing? To who are they? What are they doing? And that is, to me, revelatory for public speaking and performing. And that's how I move through some of my like riveting nerves that I have when I perform.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about your art, which is super cute. And
thank you.
How long have you been a visual artist? Punching you in the heart with comics is your motto, which I love. Like, tell me all about that.
So I started this in 2015, I think. Yeah, it was like I said, it was really personal to me. It was just, I just was soothing myself, trying so hard I was trying to figure out my life in Seoul. I was getting to a point where I was like, what am I really doing here? I had chosen a really difficult grad school. And I remember I chose it just because like one of my brother-in-laws went there and I wanted my family to be impressed with me. And I really shouldn't have done that. Like, never do things for other people, I think is what I learned from that. And then, so then it kept kind of like evolving. I kept refining the actual character. It's been through like a couple iterations of how I draw her. I actually had this weird dream last night of somebody taking like all of my old drawings and making an account and having like 100,000 followers. And I was like super angry about it. I don't know what that's about, but I guess some insecurity or something. But yeah, the most recent iteration, like all what you see now, that was created in Portland, which is where I took a vacation, like an extended vacation in 2021, because I really disliked LA and I wanted to leave LA so bad. And so I went to Portland and I found this new style and everybody seemed to like it. So I just kind of stuck with it. It's a lot cleaner than my old style. And the punching you in the heart with comics actually comes from my friend Corey, who is also living here in Seoul. He one day, like, he knew it when I was just starting it. And he wrote me one day like, oh, this one's like punching me in the heart as usual, with like, as all your comics do. And then I was like, oh, that's a great tagline. So I just took that from him. Thank you, Corey, if you are listening to this. Yeah, I stuck with that one. And then I recently took up the motto of an unheartbreak story. So it's us, or me and all of us, trying to like put our hearts back together. It's supposed to help people with that. So I hope it is. And then the last tag phrase is a miracle of tenacity, which is from my aunt on my adoptive father's side. And she knows what I went through as a kid. She knows how dysfunctional my adoptive mother was. So my adoptive dad died in 2001, and that was after like a divorce. So I never knew my dad at all. And I think his sisters kind of watched me grow up from afar. They couldn't really do anything because my mom was like, this is my kid. And I think she was so proud of me when she realized that I had like kind of escaped. And we keep in touch like really infrequently, but there was this one letter she wrote to me, and she was just like, you're a miracle of tenacity, right? Like, that's how you survived. And I'm really proud of myself too, because I think a lot of people are miracles of silver spoons or something, and they get given a lot and they don't have to work too hard for things. So I came out of something pretty bad and I came out good. So I'm just super thankful, I think. And I think I'm good because I met my Korean family, and my sisters specifically made me a good person. So I'm so thankful for them too.
I love that. That resonates with me, a miracle of tenacity. I am going to use that and quote you.
It is a lot of people. It is so many of us. And like, you don't really have to have even gone through abuse or trauma, like just surviving adoption. I feel like it's a really big thing. So I feel like a lot of people are minimizing. A lot of people who I meet through my account, actually, they have very stable, normal lives. Their adoptive parents were supportive and sent them to good schools. They sent them on really good life paths, and they feel like they're not allowed to complain ever about anything. And I just think that that's so wrong, and they should just complain. Just message me and complain. It's fine.
I agree. I think that falls into the indebtedness portion of adoption that I don't agree with at all.
Yeah.
As it is with biological kids, it's a given, right? It's a given that you are going to feed and nurture and protect and provide for me. So why do I have to exert any more gratitude than a biological child? But the game is different for us. There is fine print that no one wants to acknowledge exists. And I have been confronted with that truth via other family members because they weren't completely playing along and they wanted to remind me that I was adopted. It's really interesting when I'm constantly being confronted with adoptees who say more or less the same thing, especially if they are interracial, international adoptees such as you and myself.
Yeah, it's true. There's a lot of badges. I think back in the time that I was adopting an Asian baby was like a status symbol. My family was quite rich at the moment that they adopted me. I also have lived through years of like not having money, but yeah, it's totally about the parents. I go on my account sometimes and I don't know, it's really hard for me because I think a lot of people think I'm like a good, nice person 100% of the time because my drawings like exude that kind of. But yeah, I remember there was some adoptive parent who was giving some other adoptee like a hard time on her own page because it's not the same content as mine. It's very like anti-adoption and such. And like, I personally am not anti-adoption, but I get why other people would be very vocally about that. So this adoptive parent was there like trying to defend herself or whatever. And I was like, the only thing you need to remember is your adoptive son owes you nothing for adopting him. And you are super insignificant in the story of your adopted son and his birth mother. And I left that comment and like, I kind of was like, oh, should I have really said that? But then it's still there to this day. Like I didn't go and delete it. And now I'm repeating it on this podcast very publicly. And I think even though I think it's like, it could be rude to some people who I know personally, but the thing is like, it's probably powerful to somebody else who needs to hear it. And I think a lot of adoptive parents maybe need to hear it. Like, we don't owe you anything. And it's weird because in Asian culture, they bring up the kid, like they'll give their kid everything, because at the end of the parent's life, it is expected that you will take care of your parents who gave you everything as a child. But for some reason, when somebody gets adopted, and especially when it's by a white family, I'm like, no, you had all these resources to give to us. And the deal was that you were going to take care of us unconditionally, not because we're a retirement plan for you, but because you wanted to do something good for the world. And the thing is I think a lot of adoptive parents don't remember that, or they are not going into it at first with the thought of like, this is altruism. They go into it thinking, yeah, I'm going to fix my life and this child's going to do it for me. And, yeah, I just disagree with it so much. And I'm not saying it's 100% of adoptive parents who are doing that. It's just that when they do it, there's lifelong trauma and it will never go away. And that's why there's tension between adoptive parents and their adopted kids. And if the parents could just step back a little bit and be like, yeah, they actually don't owe me anything. And I can just die saying that I did a good thing for the world, that would probably fix a lot of problems. But I don't know if it's that simplistic, honestly. I think maybe I'm projecting like my hopes onto the world and it's not realistic.
I think you nailed it. I don't think it's unrealistic. There are people who exist who believe that, right? I do think that for the most part, my mom, there are no strings attached with my mom. And she knows exactly how I feel about adoption in general and my adoption. And it's very complicated. It's very nuanced. And it may shift throughout the day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she has made peace with that because I'm a very vocal person. When it comes to embracing my voice, I do that. And I do that not only for myself, because if I don't, it becomes stagnant within my body and it just festers. I'm someone who needs to communicate, to process things. But I also do it to hopefully show that it's possible for us adoptees to have a voice, to be able to speak in our authentic voice. You mentioned before that there are friends of yours who do not feel comfortable talking about the feeling of indebtedness that they have with their families. And then earlier in the conversation, you mentioned that you'll never talk to your biological mom about certain things in your adoption. And all of these things are fine as they are. No judgment whatsoever. I just want people to understand that there is a choice.
Yeah.
There are two lanes of existence. And you are worthy of both. You are worthy of staying the course, not saying anything. And you are also worthy of having the hard conversations, the stickiness, the mire kind of conversations, and seeing what happens next. So both scenarios, you are loved, you are worthy, and your voice matters.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, ideally that's how it should be. I've heard some stories about adoptive parents, like, you know, when someone shows interest in their home country or meeting their birth family. I think I recently heard about somebody from somebody else who his mom was like, oh, you met your Korean family, so now you have to choose between, it's either me or your Korean family. And I was like, that's not true. That cannot be true. And he was kind of like, yeah, no, I think it really happened.
What path did he take?
I don't know. I think it was like a very fleeting conversation. But yeah, I think
that's the ideal life. I totally know that I'm being idealistic right now. And not everyone has the freedoms that I have vocally. And so, I mean, that's why I'm here. That's why I have this platform, because if I have a voice, then let's do it. You know, let's model. And I understand those situations where people feel suppressed and they feel oppressed by the demands of their adoption. And I'm here to tell you that there are other routes of existing. If you want to take them, I'm here to help you, to show you how to have those conversations, to show you towards modalities and other professionals that will get you to a place where you feel comfortable to live fully in your voice and in your life, because it is your life.
Yeah.
And your story began before your adoption. And that is the truth of it. And a lot of adoptive parents forget that fact. Your story did not begin with signing, the name on the contract.
Right. Yeah.
Of money that was sent over to Korea. No, your existence began way before then, way before you were even in the womb. Your story, your lineage, your history matters. And when adoptive parents approach it as such, they can have such a deeper relationship, an intimacy that is unfathomable with that adopted child, a sincere love that is based on authenticity, based on genuine care, based on just human decency. And that is where any relationship should exist. Conscious relationships.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I don't know, that the one example I just mentioned was pretty extreme, but I do think adoptive mothers specifically get a little bit like how could you betray me to do this, to go meet your family or something. I think if there's any adoptive mothers listening, please just let that go. You can let that go. And to adoptees who are listening, it's like, no one's gonna die because you met your family. I don't know how to explain it, but it's not as big of a deal as your adoptive mother might be making it out to be. Like, maybe she's really hurt, but eventually she would have to get over it even if you went totally against her words and you were like, no, I'm going to go find my family anyway. Maybe she'll not talk to you for a little bit, but I feel like eventually she would have to talk to you again. And if not, then that's okay, because why would you want somebody in your life who is like that? I don't know. I just don't get it. I estranged myself from my mom because I believed that she was doing those kinds of things to me. I remember a lot of times this phrase would come out: if you want to be a part of this family, then you will do this and this and this. And I remember I was 16 or 17 and I was just like, oh, maybe I don't want to be a part of this family, so I don't have to do any of these things that are being asked of me. And I had a hard life. Because I separated so young, it was really, really difficult to get through college. And I have a ton of debt, and I've been floating around like a crazy person, being pushed around by the wind. It was tough, but I did not die, and I'm not in the gutter. At least I was able to make kind of a stable life for myself. But again, it has a lot to do with my reunion too, that happened that way. And not everybody has that. So it's just really case by case. But I think my main point was just, I don't know, whatever anger you think is coming from you wanting to use your voice and to have those difficult conversations with your adoptive parents, it's not the end of the world. And I think more people should just try, even if it's hard for them. And I don't know if it comes out that your adoptive mom or dad is kind of unreasonable about it, then you know that you're not the problem. It's actually them who's the problem. So I don't know. That's a really tough one. That's a super tough one for me. I don't understand the indebtedness because I decided a long time ago that I didn't owe anybody anything. And it's hard for me to just yell that at people and expect them to understand, because there's some people who they got better things than I did. And sorry, I'm going a little bit in circles. Go ahead.
No,
Go ahead.
no, that was exactly right. And I appreciated everything that you had to say, because it is case by case. And and all we can do is just speak from our lived truth, right? And I do want to say that I think it's deeply unfair for your family to say, if you want to live in this family, any language where you frame it as us and them is so hurtful for adoptees to hear, because I was told your mom brought you into her family. And so we just need to omit that language. Again, it's about how deep are we playing this game? You know, what are the rules? Let's lay out the rules right now and let's stick to them for the rest of our lives, because you can't keep on going back and forth. You can't guilt me for a decision that you made without my consent.
Yeah.
I did not agree to this. And so for any adoptive parent who gets caught up in their adoptive child's need to reunify with their biological family, they need to tap into that alleged altruism and understand that it's not about them. There's so much love. If there's love there, there's enough love to give. Just like when you have multiple kids, you don't, diminish love for the second child or the first child because you have more children. If you have established a really strong foundation of trust, protection, love, and honesty, then you have nothing to fear, my love. Nothing to fear. So if you are expressing fear, then you know that you did something wrong. So the real issue is, it's not about you, adoptive parents, when an adoptive child seeks to understand themselves more. It is about them. It is time for them to understand themselves. And in kind of segueing to the question that I ask every guest this season. In the past, it was slightly different, but this year I want it to be a bit more introspective and empowering. So, where in your life are you courageous?
Oh, that's a good one. I think a lot of people say it's my Instagram account. I don't know that that's true, because I'm hiding behind like a digital wall, and I only just recently started putting pictures of my face and stuff on. But yeah, I would say I'm pretty courageous in the comments, just writing whatever I would like. I think I'm courageous in the fact that I signed up to do the 2 events that I'm going to do with the public speaking, because that's it is literally the scariest thing on earth for me that is not dangerous. And then the last place is relationships. So I recently got a boyfriend. I'm super excited about it. Yeah. I've been through a string of kind of I guess relationships that were good at the time for me, but they ended up not really being long-term. And relationships are really hard for me. And I think for all adopted people, it's really difficult because, we have all these attachment issues as young kids, and then they play out with other people. And I think I'm kind of drawn to people who have trauma or understand trauma very well, which means they usually have their own attachment things. But yeah, I am currently right now being pretty brave with this guy who I really like. So yeah, I think I'm learning how to have a secure attachment, which has probably been the hardest, probably the scariest thing in relationships for me, because it just feels so different from all of my other attachments that I have in life. And then I would say maybe with my Korean family, I'm being braver a little bit because they like kind of let me live the way I wanted when I was young. And they were like, oh, it's fine. You'll just get married later. But now I'm 35, which is really late to like be getting married or doing family things. And,
Korea.
In Korea, yeah, it's late in Korea. I think average age for marriage here is like 25. So when I had first been here, and I'm getting braver to just like be who I am. Like, I think the language barrier is a big source of like insecurity and fear for adoptees. But I just wish I could tell everybody, like, just do it. Like, you don't have to be scared. Oh, I feel everyone should do this. Even if you can't find your family. I know it's so hard. Like, the reunion thing is really hard. It's been hard for me to talk about reunion actually openly, because I feel like other people could be sad about it. Because I would be sad if I had not met my family and I heard of other people meeting their family. So, but I don't think everybody's that petty. Like, I know there's a lot of people who haven't been reunited and they're happy for me.
I'm happy.
But yeah, thank you. But yeah, I wish everyone would go to their home country, even if you just want to go, like, just to go. I don't know. When I hear of adoptees like not having passports in the US, I'm always like, how is this possible? All you have to do is apply for it, and then you can get on a plane and go anywhere. And I wish I could set up some kind of foundation. I wish I had like limitless money and I could just pay for people's trips back to their homeland and like find them a little apartment and they could just learn, eat all the food, like learn all the bad stuff too. And then be like, yeah, at least I got part of that universe back, because in a lot of cases it was stolen from us. So I wish I could do something like that for the world too. But maybe if I keep public speaking and get some more opportunities, it's possible.
Another beautiful episode. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to my guest today. If you liked this episode, the best way to support me and this work is to write an iTunes review, a 5-star review. This helps us reach the top of searches and helps more people to find us. And if you personally want to connect, please reach out on Instagram or Facebook. And I have some great resource material on my website at laniceantoineshelley.com. So go on over there too. Until next we meet, go gently and have courage, my love.